kicked out for refusing the family business. I lived in my car, built software for small businesses, and turned it into my own company. What do you want to do? The sound of my father's voice shook the designer light fittings in our immaculate suburban kitchen. His face turned to a frightening purple, already red from his third scotch of the evening. I repeated, attempting to sound steady, that I want to launch a software company. I've created a prototype already. This platform is beneficial to small enterprises. He slammed his glass flat and said, "Absolutely not. We didn't pay for your Stanford degree, so you could waste your life on some pipe dream. You're joining the family business." End of discussion. I looked to my mom for encouragement. She remained motionless at our marble island, keeping her customary cautious distance from confrontation. It gleamed on her wrist, the diamond tennis bracelet I'd given her for Christmas, purchased with my earnings from covert freelance coding assignments. "Mom," I attempted, "you've seen how many small businesses are struggling with digital transformation. My platform could really help." She groaned and looked at her manicure. "Ethan," she said, "your father's right, this tech obsession of yours. It's not practical. Sterling Enterprises needs you. The company's been in the family for 3 generations. In reality, they meant that our family's industrial supply company, Sterling Enterprises, was failing. They needed my programming expertise to update their antiquated system so they could compete in a market that was digitizing quickly, but my aspirations were loftier. When I said I'm not asking for money, I have savings, I just need some time, my dad said, "I'll laugh. You want time to play with computers? While real businesses are at stake, while your sister is already making partner at her law firm?" Yes, Claire, my ideal elder sister. The benchmark by which all of my shortcomings were evaluated was Harvard Law, the youngest partner in her firm's history, and she was married to a physician. I insisted, "This isn't playing. I've already got interest from potential clients. Small businesses need affordable software solutions, and the big tech companies aren't serving them." My platform was chilled by my father just inches from my head. The glass broke against the wall. My father yelled enough as liquor trickled down the pricey wall covering. "You have a choice. Join Sterling Enterprises on Monday or get out. See how long you last without our support." Despite flinching at the sound, my mother remained silent. She didn't. I glanced at both of them, my mother averting my gaze, my father shaking with anger. The choice I made would alter everything. Remarkably composed, I got up and said, "I choose out what I'm leaving. Good luck modernizing Sterling Enterprises without me, you ungrateful." I was on my way upstairs when my father began to approach me. This was a moment I had anticipated. Essentials like a laptop, a portable hard drive, and 2 changes of clothes were already in my backpack. I had a safety deposit box where I kept my vital paperwork my parents couldn't access, the account where I kept the majority of my savings. My dad yelled up the stairs, "You have an hour, then I want you out of this house." I retrieved my favorite hoodie, my emergency pack, and a final glance at my childhood bedroom, my trophies from coding competitions, science fair prizes, and the framed article about the high school software I created that attracted Stanford's notice were still on the wall. It buzzed on my phone. Finn, my best friend, texted me, "Operation Escape still on." "Happening now," I responded by typing, "Plan B initiated." When I initially made the decision to follow my company goals, Finn and I had simulated this situation months prior. I could stay in his tiny flat above his family's eatery until I was able to support myself. My mother eventually spoke as I was about to leave. "Ethan, please be reasonable. Your father only wants what's best." "No," I interrupted her. "He wants what's best for Sterling Enterprises." There's a difference. I left without turning around. It felt unreal the first night in my automobile. I parked on a quiet street 2 blocks away from my parents' house, far enough away that they wouldn't notice me, but close enough to keep a solid connection to their fast Wi-Fi network which I had set up and secured myself. The familiar rhythm of keyboards drowned out the voice in my head that told me I was making a big mistake as I continued to code on my laptop, which shone in the darkness. When Finn handed me food, he remarked, "You sure about this? His mother's incredible pad thai? My couch is still available." I shook my head and showed him my workplace, which included a laptop, a power bank for emergencies, and a mobile hotspot for backup internet. "I need to stay mobile for now. Can't risk them finding me and trying to force me back." He looked at my computer screen. "What exactly are you building?" I display the interface of my prototype. I call it Smart Start. It's an all-in-one digital platform for small businesses. Point-of-sale inventory management, customer relationships. Online presents everything they need to compete in today's market, but simplified and affordable, like what your dad's company needs. Similar but designed for smaller businesses that can't afford Enterprise solutions, I reflected on all the neighborhood stores I had witnessed struggle and fail due to their inability to adapt to the digital revolution. There's a huge market being ignored by big tech. Finn gave a slow nod, a cash register from the 1990s, and paper order tickets were still in use at his family's eatery. How long until it's ready? Basic version, 2 months. I've got most of the core functions working. Just need to polish the interface and add some features. I kept from him the fact that I was also surreptitiously recording every flaw in Sterling Enterprises' systems, including every security flaw and efficiency, and lost chance for technological advancement. I was creating it because I knew they would need it someday. Not because I was spiteful. They simply weren't aware of it yet. Life fell into an odd pattern. I would work from several coffee shops over the day, purchasing just enough to warrant using their Wi-Fi and space. I would park close to my parents' house at night and utilize their fast internet to upload code and execute intricate tests. Coffee protein bars and leftovers from Finn's family were my main sources of nutrition. I learned which parking lots were safe to sleep in and which ones to avoid, and I took a shower at a cheap gym membership. Although uncomfortable, it served a useful purpose. I could devote all of my attention to creating Smart Start. If there were no outside distractions, no incessant criticism from my father, and no passive disappointment from my mother. My sister Claire attempted to step in one weekend. "This is ridiculous, Ethan," she said after finding me at the coffee shop where I usually go. "You're living in your car to prove that you can be as stubborn as Dad." I continued to code without looking up. "I'm building something important. You're throwing away a guaranteed future with the family business." I stated plainly the family business is dying. Dad's too proud to admit it. But their systems are ancient. Their processes are inefficient. And their competitors are eating them alive. "Then help fix it," I said, finally looking her in the eye. "That's exactly what I'm doing, just not the way they want." She put a big envelope on my table before departing in frustration. $5,000 in cash was found inside, along with the words, "Don't be an idiot." Come home, I upgraded my coding tools and purchased a better laptop. With the money in the second month, the breakthrough occurred. A local bookshop, a family-run hardware store, and a developing food truck company were among the small businesses who approached me about beta testing. Smart Start, they were all having trouble with the same issues that my platform was intended to address. The owner of the bookstore responded, "This is exactly what we need." Following my demonstration of the inventory management system, QuickBooks is too complicated, and the custom solutions are too expensive. How much would this cost? I gave her a price that made her smile. It was purposefully less than the going rate. In order to encourage word of mouth, I had clients that were paying by the third month. Little sums but consistent revenue. Enough to rent a little studio apartment, but I didn't include it in the lease so my parents wouldn't find out. Then came the call that made all the difference. The authoritative business-like voice said, "Is this Ethan Sterling?" "Yes. This is Owen Grant from Zenith Ventures. We've been hearing interesting things about your Smart Start platform." My heart stopped beating. One of the nation's most prominent early-stage investors was Zenith Ventures. One of our portfolio companies mentioned your solution, said it's exactly what the small business market needs. "Would you be interested in discussing potential investment?" I tightened my hold on my phone. As I recalled all the evenings I spent coding in my car, the meals I skipped to gain server time, and the uncertainties and anxieties I had set aside in order to follow this goal. Yes, I said I would definitely be interested at the time. I had no idea that this talk would start a series of events that would not only confirm my vision, but also confront my family's financial failures in a way that neither of us could have anticipated. My father would have approved of the Zenith Ventures office, which was located on the top level of a shiny downtown tower. I tried not to look like someone who had been living in his van. 2 months prior, rearranged my one nice suit and purchased used items for investor meetings. Owen Grant had the easy assurance of someone who had made his wealth in the first boom, and he was younger than I had anticipated, possibly in his early 40s. "Walk me through it again," he urged, pointing to the enormous screen in the conference room that was showing my Smart Start demonstration. I launched the user interface, which had grown as recognizable as my own image. Small businesses are drowning in digital complexity. They need a commerce inventory management, customer relationship tools, but existing solutions are either too expensive, too complicated, or too limited. The point-of-sale inventory management, customer communications, and even basic analytics were all connected, uneasy enough for anyone to use. And I showed how a small business owner could set up their complete digital presence in less than an hour, and this scales was Owen's full question. The architecture is cloud-based modular. We can add features as businesses grow, integrate with other platforms. But the core stays simple. Slowly he nodded, and your current users. 28 paying customers, all from word of mouth. Zero churn rate, average user engagement is 4 hours daily. That's impressive. He displayed a second screen. My company's incorporation documents. Innovative Solutions LLC registered 6 months ago. Yes, all self-funded so far. He looked closely at me. You're Charles Sterling's son. My heart skipped a beat. You know, my father. He looked contemplative as he said, Sterling Enterprises was one of my first investments back in the day. Before your father bought out the minority shareholders, they're having trouble adapting to digital markets. I hear I maintained a neutral expression. I wouldn't know, I'm not involved with Sterling Enterprises. He tapped his iPad and a fresh document showed up on the screen. Interesting, we'd like to offer you seed funding. $2 million for a 20% stake. I made an effort to hide my trembling hands. $2 million was more money than I ever thought I would have. Owen went on, there's one condition. We want you to expand your focus. Small businesses are good, but mid-sized enterprises need these solutions too. Companies like, say, Sterling Enterprises, and there it was. The trap I dreaded and had been anticipating. You want me to target my family's business? He gave a small smile. I want you to target a market segment that desperately needs modernization. The fact that your father's company might benefit is incidental. I reflected on the numerous evenings. I had parked outside my folks' house, utilizing their Wi-Fi to construct something they rejected, regarding my mother's quiet and my father's fury about the small enterprises. That Smart Start has already helped flourish. I'll need full control of the company's direction. I replied, no interference with the core mission. He slid a folder over the table and said, of course, have your lawyers review it. But Ethan, don't wait too long. This market won't stay open forever. 3 days later, after going over every detail with my sister Claire, who was still a better lawyer than she realized, I signed the contract. You're really doing this, she remarked as she returned the documents, with the annotations going directly against Dad's business. I'm building something that could save his business. I replied, if he's willing to see it. She gave a head shake. You know he won't. Not coming from you, of course. She was correct, but I also had a strategy. Scaling up over the next 6 months was a blur. I would have given my mother a heart attack. If I had rented actual office space in a converted warehouse, hired salespeople, designers, and developers. When Finn took over as head of customer success, his knowledge of small business owners proved to be quite helpful. Smart Start expanded more quickly than Owen had anticipated. Business circles began to hear about the platform that truly lived up to the hype. From dozens to hundreds to thousands, our user base grew rapidly. Finally, the tech press took notice of us, and then came the piece that made all the difference. Digital David versus Goliath. How Smart Start is disrupting enterprise software, the article commended. Our ability to assist small firms compete with larger corporations. Our creativity and our emphasis on user experience. The fact that I was Charles Sterling's estranged son was also mentioned almost as an afterthought. Minutes after the piece went up, my phone rang. Claire, she said. Dad's furious without introducing herself. He's calling an emergency board meeting. Why Smart Start isn't competing with Sterling Enterprises. No, but 3 of their biggest customers just announced they're switching to your platform. Stunned, I reclined. I hadn't observed that. Mid-sized organizations were beginning to use Smart Start. Because we've been so focused on tiny enterprises, there's more, insisted Claire. Their latest quarterly numbers, they're bad, Ethan. Really bad. The board is talking about forcing Dad out if he doesn't modernize their systems. I retrieved the public financial information for Sterling Enterprises. The figures were worse than I had anticipated. Within 6 months, their stock had fallen 40%. The rate of customer attrition was increasing. They were practically on the verge of going bankrupt. Due to their antiquated software systems, they need help, I muttered aloud. They need you, she said. But you know Dad will never admit it. Owen Grant's remarks regarding focusing on mid-sized businesses in the several elements we included in Smart Start that may help businesses like Sterling Enterprises were on my mind, perhaps. I replied softly, they don't have to recognize me. I called an emergency team meeting that evening. I revealed the prototype I had been working on covertly, a new division aimed at larger companies that was based on the Smart Start architecture, but had extra capabilities for intricate operations. We're launching enterprise solutions, I said. Finn scowled. I thought we were staying focused on small business. We are. But there's a whole segment of mid-sized companies being crushed. Between small business agility and big corporation resources, they need what we've built. I neglected to mention that Every feature in Enterprise Solutions was created, especially to address the issues facing Sterling Enterprises, that I had devoted months to examining their shortcomings and developing fixes for problems they were unaware they had yet. For weeks, the team worked nonstop. We introduced Enterprise Solutions under a different name, through a subsidiary that was difficult to link to me. Similar to Sterling Enterprises, the marketing campaign focused on well-established enterprises who were having difficulty embracing digital change. We waited after that. It took very little time days after our launch. The new Chief Technology Officer of Sterling Enterprises, who had been hired in a panic, following their most recent system failure, contacted us. The location of the meeting was their headquarters. I watched over a secure video link. While my father and his board were shown Enterprise Solutions by our sales team, who were specifically selected to be unrelated to me, I witnessed his realization that this was precisely what they required. Saw him struggle to acknowledge it. Observed the enthusiastic inquiries from the board members regarding cost and implementation. Our sales lead clarified the investment would be significant, but the potential return. My father cut me off, saying we'll need to see other options. An elderly board member, Jonathan, leaned forward. We've seen 12 presentations in 2 months. This is the only solution that actually addresses our specific needs, and their track record impressive results with similar companies. Another board member added their voice. My cousin's manufacturing business switched to their system last quarter. Saw immediate improvements. I saw the expression on my father's face, as he knew he was losing the battle. Change was what the board desired. Their clients insisted on it. Their best chance of surviving was with Enterprise Solutions. Fine, he snarled. Start the procurement process. With an odd sense of emptiness, I shut down the video feed. I had succeeded. Produced just what was required by Sterling Enterprises. Confirmed that my vision was correct. Why, therefore, didn't it seem like a win? When Claire contacted again 3 days later, the response was received. She said, "Dad's drinking." Without introducing herself. Really drinking? Mom's talking about separation, not because of Enterprise Solutions, but because he is aware of his failure. My gut nodded. He had to go. Pleading with outsiders for assistance, because the business was collapsing. She hesitated. He keeps saying he should have listened to you. I reflected on all the decisions that had brought us to this point. As I gazed out my office window at the metropolitan skyline, my pride, my father's intransigence, and the barriers of silence we established between us, what if I thought to myself, there was a way to save both the company and his pride? How? I have an idea, but I'll need your help. The board meeting of Sterling Enterprises was set for 9:00 a.m. Thursday. I watched familiar faces stream into their offices as I waited in my car outside the exact location where I had parked. To access their Wi-Fi, last to arrive was my father, who appeared older than I had recalled. His suit, which was usually spotless, was a little rumpled. His stride was less assured than the one I had grown up admiring. I tapped my phone and asked, "Everything ready, all set?" The woman said, "The board members are prepped. Owen Grant just arrived and Mom's in position," though she's still not sure about this. I changed my tie. It was still not the brand my father would pick. But it was a designer now. It has to be today. The Enterprise Solutions contract needs board approval. By the end of the week. Good luck, replied Claire quietly. Try not to enjoy this too much. Despite my nervousness, I grinned. She was too familiar with me. When I walked in, the security guard looked twice. I had been hauled away the last time I was here. Following another argument about entering the family business, I was back on my terms now. As I walked in, the boardroom became quiet. My dad's expression quickly changed from astonished to irate, to perplexed. Owen Grant, who was seated close to the head of the table, simply nodded as though he had anticipated my arrival. My dad yelled, "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to discuss the Enterprise Solutions contract," I remarked coolly as I set my laptop down on the table. "This is a closed board meeting, security actually," Owen replied softly. "Mr. Sterling is here at my request. As the majority investor in Enterprise Solutions, I believe his input is crucial to this discussion." My dad's face turned white. "You at my laptop displayed a similar UI when I plugged it in, but not Enterprise Solutions. I chose to show them the original Smart Start dashboard instead, which had my very first designs and notes. I started building this the day you kicked me out." I said, "Using your Wi-Fi, actually." Since I was living in my car at the time, the members of the board shuffled uneasily. My mom eventually turned to face me as she sat calmly in her typical corner seat. I went on Smart Start grew faster than anyone expected. Small businesses loved it because it solved real problems, simply and affordably. But I knew larger companies needed similar solutions. I moved to the interface for enterprise solutions. Every feature in this system was designed specifically to address Sterling Enterprise's challenges: the inventory management, the customer tracking, the integration capabilities, all built based on intimate knowledge of what this company needs. My father's voice was trembling with anger as he said, "You've been spying on us." "No," I replied. "I've been trying to save your company." "The same company you wanted me to join, but only on your terms." Owen Grant cleared his throat. "The board has reviewed Mr. Sterling's proposal. Enterprise Solutions isn't just a software platform. It's a potential merger opportunity." My dad's head jerked up. Merger. I displayed the comprehensive merger proposal that I had been working on for weeks. Smart Start Technology would acquire a controlling interest in Sterling Enterprises. I said, "But the Sterling name stays. The legacy business continues, enhanced by modern technology, and the current CEO transitions to chairman emeritus, focusing on strategic partnerships rather than day-to-day operations." There was no sound in the room. My dad whispered, "You want to buy my company?" I clarified, "I want to save it, transform it into something that honors its history, while embracing the future. But it has to happen now before the market completely passes you by." It was my mother who talked first. Charles listened to him. Startled, he turned to face her. She had never raised her voice in 30 years of board meetings. "I've seen what Ethan built," she added, "what he sacrificed to build it. This isn't about winning or losing, it's about family. He laughed loudly. "He abandoned the family business." "No," I muttered. "I found a different way to support it. Every feature, every innovation in Enterprise Solutions was designed with Sterling Enterprises in mind. Because despite everything, I never stopped believing in what this company could be." I approached his chair and opened a second document on my tablet, my initial business plan, which I had penned in my car the night after I was expelled. The subtitle was Project Phoenix, modernizing Sterling Enterprises through independent innovation. He fixated on the paper. A dawn of recognition. This was your plan all along. Plan B, actually. Plan A was convincing you to modernize from within, but you weren't ready to listen. Then Owen Grant got to his feet. "The board needs to vote on this merger proposal by the end of day. I suggest we take a brief recess to process this information." I was left alone with my father as everyone else filed out. He looked lost as he sat there looking over my business proposal. He finally questioned, "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened, really listened? Not just heard what you wanted to hear?" He remained silent for a while. "You built all this using our Wi-Fi?" I couldn't contain my laughter. "That's what you're focusing on." "No, he said, stroking his gray hair. "I'm trying to understand how my son went from living in his car to offering to buy my company in less than 2 years. The same way you built this company. By seeing opportunity everyone else missed. By working harder than anyone thought possible. By believing in something bigger than myself." Slowly he nodded. "Your grandfather would have loved this. He always said, the best business lessons come from proving the skeptics wrong. I learned that from you, actually. All those stories about how you built Sterling Enterprises. How you proved everyone wrong who said it would fail." I took a seat beside him. "I just did it my way instead of yours." The merger was approved by the board in a unanimous vote. After the longest delay of my life, my father cast his vote in favor. The changeover wasn't seamless, particularly with family companies. Change is never easy, however. Sterling Enterprises started to change gradually. The name was retained, but the brand was updated. My grandfather's fundamental business was maintained, but it was improved, using technology to enable it to prosper in the digital era. Sterling's steadiness and smart starts, inventiveness came together to create something that neither business could have done on its own. After a year, I sat in my father's office, which is now our office. As he had finally agreed to become chairman emeritus, the quarterly figures we were examining had surpassed all expectations. "You were right," he abruptly remarked. I raised my head. "About what?" "About everything." He looked directly into my eyes and said, "The technology, the market changes, the need to adapt." He pointed to the table displaying our most recent findings and said, "I was too proud to see it, too afraid of losing control. And now I'm proud of what you built. What we're building together." It buzzed on my phone. Finn sent us a message regarding a possible new acquisition target. Another family firm in trouble that required precisely what we produced. I pulled up the plan and added, "Speaking of building, asking, what do you think about expanding our enterprise division?" He grinned, the genuine smile I recalled from my early years, before anxiety and tension had hardened him. "Tell me more." Later that evening, I passed our former residence. There was still a robust Wi-Fi signal. They were unaware that I had changed their system. Last month, I reflected on that first night in my car, coding under the light of my laptop, driven by resentment, willpower, and the need to prove everyone wrong. I had discovered, however, that success was not about proving others incorrect. It was about establishing your own credibility and creating something so indisputable that even the most ardent doubters had to admit its worth. My mother reminded me to have family supper. As my phone chimed once again, these were now routine occurrences. But the discourse had changed from judgment to sincere interest. From criticism to cooperation, I replied back, "Coming since I couldn't help but send this over the Wi-Fi." She answered right away, very funny. "Your father says bring the new acquisition proposal." And yes, he's actually smiling about it. Thinking of how far we'd come from rejection to reunion made me smile as well, from rivalry to cooperation, from surreptitiously utilizing their Wi-Fi to assisting them in embracing the digital future. Sometimes proving someone wrong isn't the greatest form of retaliation. It's giving them a whole new perspective on what's right. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking, real-life stories happening around you.